Hello everyone. Right away I want to thank you for coming back to my channel for another video. Today I'm doing a short walkthrough of the first unit of the undergraduate creative writing class that I teach at Johns Hopkins University. The unit is titled Detail and Scene, and this video's all about detail. We'll be reading two short stories available in the Norton Anthology of Short Fiction. This baby is a behemoth, it's expensive, and word on the street is that the two short stories we're going to be talking about, as well as all of the stories that we're going to be talking about throughout the series, are available online as PDFs. Is that an endorsement to get things for free online instead of funneling your money to multi-billion-dollar corporations? Anyways, the short stories are Araby by James Joyce and Girl by Jamaica Kincaid. But I know the algorithm is waiting for me to communicate the point, so I'll pose that age-old question: why do I think this video is worth your time? I think this video is worth your time because understanding the building blocks of storytelling, meaning, in this case, detail and scene, is, in my opinion, an extremely valuable skill for anyone interested in becoming a better storyteller. And before I go any further, I'll say this: when I use the word storyteller, I don't just mean in the literary sense. Obviously, the specific context of this video and the class more generally pertains directly to the act of writing short stories and or novels or just fiction in general. But I think the value of following me through this video goes well beyond the class of literary storytellers. And this is something I try to communicate to my undergraduate students at Johns Hopkins whenever I can. The reality is our lives depend upon our ability to be great storytellers. The person who can clearly articulate an idea, which I think is akin to telling a story, puts themselves in a better position to achieve their goals and actualize their full potential. So to try putting it simply, I think the value of this video and the series that'll follow more generally is that by familiarizing ourselves with what I'll call the tools of fiction, we can access an understanding of storytelling that transcends the literary sense and becomes generally applicable to virtually any scenario in the real world when we have to rely on our ability to tell a story, which I think happens more often than we might think. So let's get into it. Right away, I'll say this: definitions oftentimes fall short. I say this because what I'm going to say should be taken with a grain of salt. Today, we're focusing on details in the most general sense, which is to say independent of any work of fiction, at least insofar as doing that is manageable. So we're talking about detail first. So let's ask the incredibly boring question: what is a detail? Here's what I tell my students. I read them the two definitions that Google gives. Hopefully you'll give me the chance to explain myself before clicking off of the video, because I know it sounds simple and uncreative, but there's a real point to me doing it. The first definition Google gives is, quote, an individual feature, fact, or item. So most of us, at least in my opinion, understand this as the most common definition of a detail. And for that reason, I usually breeze right on past it because I don't want to bore my students by telling them something that they already know. I am much more interested in the second definition that Google offers. So what is that second definition, you ask? The second definition Google gives us is, quote, a small detachment of troops given a special duty, end quote. So this is the definition that gets me jacked up. But okay, why is it the definition that gets me jacked up? I think that it gets me jacked up because it highlights the ends that details work toward in fiction and in any sort of story more generally. Think about a paragraph. What makes a paragraph? Sentences, yes, obviously. But labeled abstractly, we can say that a paragraph is comprised of details, but not just any details, because if they were just any details, the story probably wouldn't make much sense. And while stories don't necessarily have to make sense, they have to at least be focused. There's a famous Lane M. Banks quote, which I'll read now. He says, quote, the trouble with writing fiction is that it has to make sense, whereas real life doesn't, end quote. And I bring this up to drive home the idea that there has to be some focus that a series of details are working toward, which brings me back to Google's second definition once again. When we're telling a story, whether it's a piece of writing or just a conversation we're having with another person, every bit of information we put forward must be working toward some meaningful end. So let's build on that second definition. Instead of being, quote, a small detachment of troops given a special duty, think of a detail as it functions in a story as, quote, a small detachment of words given a special duty. And I hope by this point you're starting to get some idea of why I prefer the second definition to the first. I think it offers us a better opportunity to construct a guiding metaphor that's solid enough to help us begin to become better storytellers across the board. It kind of offers us a lens through which we can conceptualize details as we might use them in the stories that we tell. C.S. Lewis once said, quote, "To say the very thing you really mean, the whole of it, nothing more or less or other than what you really mean, that's the whole art and joy of words." So why do I mention this quote? I mention it because it speaks to the optimal outcome of a collection of details, at least insofar as I've been able to kind of conceptualize it. When we tell a story, again, whether it's a work of fiction or a story we're telling to a friend or a romantic interest or a coworker, whatever, we use words to construct details. That's how I kind of layered the second definition that Google gave. And we use those details to engage our readers or our listeners' attention, which is no easy task. What we're doing anytime we tell a story is we're creating an ecosystem of meaning and we're communicating it to another person. But that doesn't happen by chance. You're not going to capture someone's attention by chance. To refer back to the C.S. Lewis quote, we have to say the very thing we really mean, and this depends on, tightly linked and focused details. All of this is to say that details are the building blocks we use to engage another person's attention. And in the stories we discuss for this unit and the series more generally, we'll be able to more specifically nail down what a detail is and how different authors employ different details to different ends. So I hope this video has given you some idea of not only what details are in the context of storytelling, but also how you can pay attention to their employment so that you might become a better storyteller across all categories. I want you to think about details, in your own storytelling, whether you're a fiction writer or just somebody having a conversation with another person. I want you to think about details as being little detachments of troops that kind of go out for you and accomplish what it is that you want them to do. It's basically your words doing work for you as they're perceived and digested by other people. But okay, that's everything that I've got for right now. Before I go, I want to thank you, my wonderful viewer, for sticking with me to the end. If you found this video interesting or useful or helpful, I ask that you please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It really means a lot to me. And let me know what you think in the comments section down below. Thank you again, everyone. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time.